that there are a number of secrets that make WWE segments, promos, and matches run without a hitch. As hard as WWE can try to keep those secrets under wraps, more often than not, they are sometimes unintentionally revealed. But which ones are they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 WWE secrets that were recently exposed. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Bray Wyatt and The Fiend switch in the ring. Bray Wyatt's The Fiend character was one of the most interesting characters that WWE have ever had on their television screens in recent memory. One of the things that made Bray's character so special and unique was that he successfully managed to balance the two characters at once. One character was the host of the Firefly Funhouse, and this was a charismatic yet chilling character. The other was The Fiend, a demonic entity that managed to win the Universal title on 2 occasions. The December 7th, 2020 edition of Raw featured Firefly Funhouse Bray going one-on-one with his arch-rival Orton in the main event. During the closing moments of the match, Orton would execute an RKO on Bray when suddenly The Fiend had swapped places with normal Bray. This led to fans questioning how did they do this during a live broadcast on Raw. Well, it turned out that portion of the segment involving The Fiend was simply taped before Raw went live on the air. This was possible thanks to the WWE being in the Thunderdome and having no actual fans in attendance. If they were in a traditional arena with paid fans in attendance, this would be next to impossible to pull off. Number 9. WWE superstars can now communicate directly with the ringside doctor. It's tradition in WWE that if a superstar is injured, they will communicate with the referee to update them on their injury and condition. However, it appears to be a recent trend in WWE that superstars can now signal to the ringside doctor that they need medical assistance. This was discovered during the Humberto Carrillo vs Sheamus match on the May 10th, 2021 edition of Raw. The match featured Humberto performing a sunset flip powerbomb on Sheamus to the outside of the ring. But the issue was that Sheamus came crashing down on Humberto's knee. Humberto then signaled to the ringside doctor that he was injured and the match needed to be called off. The referee eventually got involved and the match was called off with immediate effect. Number 8. Hell in a Cell now includes crash pads? When the Hell in a Cell debuted in 1997, the match was designed to be the most brutal match in WWE history. This was certainly the case during the first few Hell in a Cell matches. However, as the concept went into the PG era, the match slowly became less and less brutal. Take for instance the match between Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, which took place in 2021's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. The most notable spot in the match involved McIntyre being chokeslammed to the outside of the ring, with Drew landing on a crash pad, and this received criticism from fans who believed that the crash pad had no business in a Hell in a Cell matchup. Now, there are some fans who appreciated the WWE trying to keep their talent safe, but a crash pad being used in a Hell in a Cell match is an interesting safety precaution to say the very least. Number 7. The crew member under the ring. Speaking of the Hell in a Cell match between Lashley and Drew McIntyre, following the spot involving a crash pad, a mysterious hand emerged from under the ring. This hand was trying to dispose of the evidence of the crash pad, but the individual failed miserably. Clearly not a lot of thought went into how the WWE were going to present the bump that McIntyre was going to take. Both the crash pad and the crew member were visible in shots. Number 6. Bray Wyatt's back catches on fire. At the beginning of the video, we mentioned how one of the arch-rivals for The Fiend was Randy Orton. Their most infamous match took place at the 2020 TLC pay-per-view in the first ever Firefly Inferno match. In the match, Orton would successfully be victorious after The Fiend was engulfed in flames. Amazingly, this was actually Bray who performed the spot. Bray was protected thanks to several layers of clothing, ensuring that none of his skin was burnt. The former WWE champion was also protected thanks to fireproof gel which covered his hair and other vulnerable parts. Although major safety precautions were taken with Bray, he deserves a ton of credit for agreeing to perform such a serious and dangerous stunt. Number 5. The Fiend gets doused in gasoline and then seemingly burnt to death. Following Bray catching fire during his match with Orton, he would then run into the ring and he would receive a devastating RKO. It was then that Orton poured gasoline all over Bray and set him alight. TLC 2020 seemingly went off the air with one of WWE's top superstars being burnt to death. However, the secret to this WWE trick is rather simple. The version of Bray that Orton set on fire was simply a dummy version of Bray. WWE achieved this by pre-taping the Firefly Funhouse match, meaning they could do multiple takes to make sure it looked as legitimate as possible. Number 4. Vince McMahon's direct memos. Talking Smack is a show where character development is key. The show involves talent being interviewed and revealing motivations behind their actions and character. The popular show has received widespread praise for being more lenient in relation to allowing talent to be a little more unscripted. However, it appears as if Vince McMahon is still in direct control of what talent say, and we know this thanks to Paul Heyman. In 2020, Heyman appeared on Talking Smack and he accidentally revealed a memo from Vince on camera which stated, "Identify all consequences if Roman loses," per Vince. So it appears as if Vince still likes to micromanage as much as possible even on a show such as Talking Smack. Speaking of promo material, thanks to a rather comedic blunder by former WWE superstar Tucker, fans learned that the talent still try to memorize their promo right up until their particular segment goes live on air. Tucker was involved in a backstage segment at the 2020 Hell in a Cell pay-per-view where he accidentally walked into the segment with his promo still in his hand. Tucker quickly realized what he had done and he hilariously threw the piece of paper containing the promo to the side. Number 3. WWE superstars take breaks during commercials. It's rather common for WWE superstars to slow down the pace of the match when Raw or SmackDown goes to a commercial break. However, during the pandemic, when Raw and SmackDown were presented at the Performance Center, WWE allowed their talent to stop wrestling altogether during commercial breaks. Since there was no fans in attendance, it made little sense for talent to be wrestling. Leaked footage surfaced in 2020 of Sasha Banks, Bayley, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross taking a break during a tag match. Fans could actually hear the 4 women talking about the match and they were casually catching a breather whilst WWE went to a commercial. Number 2. Alexa Bliss throws a fireball. One of the most memorable moments of Alexa Bliss's career was the time she threw a fireball in the face of Randy Orton. This segment was one of the most non-PG moments to take place in the modern day edition of Raw, and it received praise for pushing the envelope in relation to how far WWE could push their content. Fans questioned how the WWE performed the segment safely, and some fans questioned if the fireball was a computer-generated image. No, this wasn't the case, as WWE would use a traditional flash paper method to execute the stunt. Due to the nature and danger of the fireball itself, they also pre-taped the segment. And number 1, the rope breaks during Finn Balor's coup de grace. Finn Balor's demon persona was handed his first loss on the WWE main roster at the 2021 Extreme Rules pay-per-view. The demon would be defeated by Universal Champion Roman Reigns after the ring rope broke during the coup de grace attempt. Reigns was then able to capitalize and execute a spear for the victory. Since the pay-per-view took place in front of fans, they wondered how WWE managed to break the rope safely. Well, it turns out a crew member who was located at ringside simply cut the rope. Thanks to the WWE utilizing red light during the matches, this crew member was barely seen. Nevertheless, fans in attendance managed to see the trick performed firsthand. But there you have it folks, 10 WWE secrets that were recently exposed. Be sure to leave your comments down below and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.